John. It's good to see you.
It is good seeing you, Sean. How are you?
I am doing great, thank you. Doing very
That's
good.
good.
I guess I'm doing well. Superman does good. Sorry. Uh, what is on your mind this week?
Oh, I read an interesting article about parenting style, and
Oh,
I just thought I would share it. And the article is titled "Perceived Mother and Father Parenting and Adolescent Social Anxiety Symptoms: A Meta-Analysis" by Oshry and colleagues out of University of Georgia. But they were looking at teen anxiety because that's a issue now. There's a lot of anxiety related issues with teenagers. And it's that time when you're trying to grow up and figure out who you are, and then there's, bullying, and you're included in some groups and not in others, and it can be very brutal and very in your face. As adults, you kind of learn how to shield it a little bit better to not hurt people's feelings too bad, but as teenagers it doesn't matter. You just say what you want to say, you blurt things out. And so it's a rough time for kids, can be a rough time, and anxiety disorders are fairly high. And so they were looking at parenting styles and how that affected anxiety in teenagers. And they found that, not surprisingly, this is the part about research. Sometimes you go, well, duh, but you still have to do the research to find out because there's always nuances. But the research showed that parents who are overbearing, very strict, use guilt a lot to try to increase, good behavior or following directions and things like that. That those are the types of parents that cause the most anxiety. And parents who are more supportive and nurturing, uh, their teens have less anxiety. So I mean, that's kind of like, well, yeah, but it comes down to, you know, kind of the you have to figure out how to draw the line between being strict and being too open and letting your children. You can't just let teenagers do anything they want. So where do you draw the line? And so this is saying that, if you're overly strict, then that's not good. If you use guilt, that's even worse. And if you're really controlling, where you try to control everything they do and tell them exactly how to do everything and follow them around, always telling them how to do stuff, that's even where that causes even more social anxieties.
yeah. I know that I've learned from this show from you. I'm not supposed to stereotype people, and I try not. I don't like stereotypes, and I'm saying that to extend to this idea of like generational stereotypes.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, what you were talking about just sparked this thing in my head of like my generation. I hate saying that, but me and people my age, at least the people that I know, we all grew up on neglect and hose water, right? Like you just drink water out of a hose and no one
Yeah.
cared where you were.
Yeah.
It was like I could leave the house as a teenager. I leave the house in the morning, this during the summertime usually, but
Hmm.
whatever. I leave the house and then I come home at some point in the evening
Hmm.
and no one really asked where I was or what I was doing. It was just like, um, and
Neglect and
then,
hose water.
that's what I grew up on.
Neglect and hose water.
But not that I have any scientific, evidence to say I don't. I didn't have a lot of anxiety, but there's also social media. There's a lot of things in there. But
Hmm.
it just
Hmm.
what I was thinking about is then when I grow up and then I have kids, uh, then like I want to do it differently than my parents did, and I think this goes for probably forever. But
Hmm.
then that
Hmm.
becomes I'm not going to neglect my kids. I'm going to be involved in every aspect of what they're doing, and
Hmm.
some people termed that generation as helicopter parents, but we were always
Hmm.
hovering.
Yep.
It was always and then now I think, and if I only look at my own family, my son has children, his wife is an amazing he's amazing too. Both of these people are amazing parents, but what I noticed is it's a balance of like they're involved, they're not neglecting them, but they're not hovering. It took a few generations, at least in my family, to kind of like find the balance.
Mm-hmm.
So you go from me, neglect. No one really asked where you were or cared, and that, and then this next. Then I have kids, and I'm like, "What are you doing? Where are you going? Hey, who are you talking to? Come on, let me just hover around you and make sure you're okay." Um, but I will say that I think that did lead to anxiety in my children,
Mm.
and I think that, maybe I'll ask you is kids pick up on that, right? So my anxiety as a parent of just being like, don't go near that car, watch out for traffic, like don't pick that up.
Yep.
That could feed some of that anxiety, right?
That yes, that feeds it, and then also if they're not learning things on their own, if they don't make their own decisions, they can't decide what they should do, then
Oh
they
yeah.
don't
Okay, yeah.
know when you're not around, like, oh no, what am I supposed to do now? Because nobody's here to tell me. So it's kind of a combination of
Right.
those two things.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because like I said, I don't know how it happened. My wife's a great parent. But my son and his wife, they every time I see him, I'm in awe. To go back to our last
Yeah.
episode, or a couple
Yep.
episodes ago, but of how they find the balance of like not letting my granddaughter juggle knives, but also not on top of her,
Mm-hmm.
watch out for the steps, or, whatever
Yeah.
the thing is. There's this beautiful balance of like, we're here if you need us, we're here to keep you safe, but you got to kind of figure this stuff out. And
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing to watch. I just didn't have it for my parents, and I don't think I provided it to my kids, but somehow it
Yeah.
worked.
Yeah. I think so. My son and daughter-in-law and their kids are like what you're describing. They're also more like that. Uh,
Where did that
yeah.
come from, though? How did they figure it out?
So I think that, people talk about older people like us always have complaints about the newest generation out here. So maybe not our
True.
kids, but our kids, and so now you have whatever the generation is of teenagers and early 20-year-olds, whatever that's called. I've heard so many people say, that we're going down the tubes. There's no way this generation's ever going to be able to blah blah blah. And I heard that about the generation before that and the generation before that. Like, what's going to happen? Because these kids don't have it. They aren't responsible, and we're just, and I've heard this about, especially about anxiety in teenagers. Like, we're so worried about that, and we're always worried about how they're feeling or what they're doing, and that's all they talk about. And it's kind of like a complaint. And the point is, those, like, anxiety has always been there. Just because kids weren't allowed to say I'm anxious right now, or adults weren't talking about kids are kind of anxious, doesn't mean it didn't exist. Just because you didn't say it
Yeah.
doesn't mean it wasn't there. It's always existed. And
Oh,
I feel like now, so your anxiety was, I mean, you didn't have the anxiety because you were out doing things on your own, I think is what you were saying. I don't really remember having that much
yeah.
anxiety about stuff. And part of it is
No.
that is the memory, where you remember things in a better light than what really happened. We have that kind of that bias, that heuristic to remember things as being better than they were. So I'm sure that I had anxiety at times, probably a lot more often than I thought. But overall, I didn't feel it as much. But I think it's also, like you said, there was no social media. There was no,
Right.
yeah, you could just leave. You could run around, and I would leave, like you said, and come back, late at night. It didn't really matter. I'm not late, but when it's getting dark, I'm coming in for dinner, and it
Hmm.
wasn't ever an issue like that. So there's differences in what the world is like right now. I I think that if you leave a kid to, like, with with neglect and hose water now, that's much more dangerous than it was back when we were growing
Agreed.
up.
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
that's what old people say, I know, all the time, but I believe that because of just because we're living in a more violent world now, and there's more, well, pockets of violence, and there's, the social media and all that other stuff that goes on. But I
Yeah.
think it's good that kids are allowed to talk about their anxieties, and we're worried about those things. We're talking about those things. So I don't think it means that this newer generation coming up is weak or unfit or whatever. I think they're going to be healthier and stronger because of it.
I absolutely agree with that. Yeah. I don't know where it came from, but my daughter-in-law, when my granddaughter was, I don't remember how old, but very young, but there would be times where something would be happening and she would take her knuckles and start rubbing her chest,
Mm-hmm.
and my granddaughter. And that was her communicating she's feeling some kind of way. And it was usually anxious. She didn't have that word,
Mm-hmm.
but when something was, scaring her, or there was whatever it was, she'd do that. And then her mom would, say, and then they'd start talking about how she was feeling.
Wow.
I mean, this kid's going to take over the world.
Yeah, that is
She's
great though.
she's 5, but I can see it. She's going to take over the world. But again, the ability to talk about her feelings at even a young age, and saying, "I'm feeling anxious,"
That is
and
amazing.
then okay, and then they start kind of breaking down the. I don't even know the process because I didn't do it. Both of my kids are anxious because, like I said, we were so worried. Especially the first child was like,
Yeah.
wrap them in bubble wrap and don't let them out of
Yes.
the house.
Yeah, we were like that
And
too. Yeah,
and again, so
yeah, our oldest, we put even a sign on the door: "Baby sleeping, do not knock," and like no vacuum, like just everything had to be death silence.
yes,
And then by the time
yes,
the next one came, we were like, while they were sleeping in the crib, lifting up one end of the crib to sweep under it and putting, yeah, it totally changed. But yeah,
same,
we
same.
started that way,
Uh,
definitely. I think that
uh, it-
they also said consistency is really the key. So that part of anxiety is if you're always changing, like if you're not real consistent in your expectations, you're strict, but the rules change, that also creates anxiety. So if you
oh
have
yeah,
stricter rules, consistency is the real key, because just kids figure out, they kind of figure out what the limits and parameters are, and then as long as you don't keep moving those, then they can feel secure and safe and they're not as anxious. But it's when you
yes.
change the
If
rules,
those
like one day I'm
guardrails
not
are
happy.
clear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
normally you could
That's
do that, but
interesting.
I've had a bad day, so you're not allowed to do that today. And so you
Yeah.
yell at them. It's like, wait, that rule changed. And even if they don't think of it as a
Hmm.
rule change, it's like, whoa, I can't do that today. So it just creates the uncertainty and anxiety. And so it was just an interesting article that they had a very large group of people in this study, and they
Hmm.
found that both parents contribute to anxiousness. Mothers contribute a little bit more, especially controlling mothers. And they said they're not sure why. They think it might be because mothers carry more of the responsibility of parenting and are with the children more than fathers. Even working mothers is kind of like this, the cultural role that we put women in as being the
Women
mother.
in.
So
Yeah.
they're more responsible for them, or they're responsible for them a larger chunk of the day each day. So it might be that both parents have the same effect. It's just if mothers are around them more, it just makes theirs a little bit more. It just seems like they're a little bit more, have a little bit more of an effect. But both can have the effect, and especially the other side is true. If you're really engaged and caring and consistent, that is a huge effect from either parent. So
Hmm.
that was interesting. Moms always get blamed. Freud always blamed moms. Like if something's wrong with you, it was your mom's fault.
It's mom's fault. Yeah.
Yeah, she
That
didn't
trope
breastfeed
is,
long enough, or
since we're moving into the spooky season, we're moving into October. Every scary movie, right? Every serial killer, it's the
mm-hmm.
mom. The
It
mom
always is.
created this somehow, right? It's always
Oh
her
yeah,
fault.
it's always the
That's a
mom's fault.
trope. I'm not saying I support it. I mean, it's true in our house. My wife raised our kids.
Yeah.
She'll humbly say that's not true, but she raised our kids. The only thing that I ever did, and kind of, it's funny because it still continues today, is I'm a goofball. I just brought humor to these situations, right? Like I just say or do something goofy. And still, my kids kind of expect it from me today. Is just your dad's just going to say something sarcastic or funny and make everybody laugh. So in those tense moments or whatever's going on, I'm going to say something dumb. It's going to get laughs, but that's what I bring to the table.
In tense moments, it's an icebreaker, right? So
I
that's
think
what I
so.
use it as. That might be a dad thing too, because I do that. And
maybe it is it. Well, dad jokes, I guess, is
jokes.
That term. Maybe that, maybe I'm not alone in this.
When things are getting a little bit tense, or a story's getting really intense, or I can feel tension building without even thinking about it, I crack a joke or give a comment, of try to make a funny comment or try to make something funny out of it. And I hear all the time, this isn't really the time for a joke, John. Like,
this is no time for jokes, John.
No time for jokes, John. Yeah. So
I've gotten that a lot in my life. And especially my poor wife, right? Because like I said, she's the disciplinarian. She's running the house. She's raising the kids. And then I come in and, when one of the kids is in trouble or did something, I crack some joke.
Yeah.
This poor woman.
She raised you and the kids.
3 kids. I was going to say she raised 3 kids. But I do. It's interesting. I don't want to, but you're making me think about just why I do that, right? Mm-hmm. Because I feel like humor is disarming. I feel it, like you already said, an icebreaker. It breaks tension, but it also, not even in those situations, but I don't think it's a defense mechanism. I'm thinking about it. I find I go to humor a lot to solve a lot of these issues. And I will say, it's usually I usually make fun of myself. Yeah. It's not making fun at the expense of other people. I usually, somehow make it about, and it's carried into, a little bit of this podcast in my life. I find that making fun of myself or doing something like that does tend to diffuse situations.
I think that humor like that has several benefits to us as humans, that have that we've brought with us to it can solve several social problems. Have you ever seen if you see people laughing, just seeing them laugh, you kind of start laughing. Like what you walk up in a group's laughing, you come up and you start laughing too.
Very true. Yeah,
what are you guys talking about? What is it? And you're kind of laughing. So research shows that laughing is contagious. And so when you see people laughing, you start laughing. If you're in a room where basically everybody's laughing and one person isn't, that kind of stands out. Like, whoa, the movie, The Joker,
Joker.
Phoenix? No, who's the actor that plays the Joker? He is. He is so good, but that shows where he would laugh at times when it was inappropriate, and people are like, because it's not like, it's like, that doesn't fit in this situation. But mostly, laughter is contagious, and like primates, like our closest primate relative, chimpanzees, they use laughing a lot in social contexts. So they bond by grooming each other, but you don't have the time to groom everybody in your group. So they give the laughing calls, and a lot of them will start laughing together, and them giving those calls together is a sign of bonding. So it can kind of take the place of grooming. And so laughing is used to bond their troop together for chimpanzees. And humans, laughing bonds us together. If you've had a story where you've experienced something with somebody and you retell it and you laugh about it and you talk about that's a bonding thing. So that's part of it, is part of play and bonding.
Yeah, bonding.
I had a couple of professors at University of Nevada, the Gardners. I might have mentioned this before.
You've mentioned them.
Yeah, they did studies with chimpanzees, teaching them sign language. And one of Washoe was their first chimpanzee, and they ended up having others as well. But Washoe, it was all of their favorite games, but Washoe would give the sign for tickle, when time was like when they weren't doing research or involved in like naming tasks and things like that, where they would show cards. When they weren't involved in that, Washo would give the tickle sign a lot and wanting them to tickle her. And so they would like you do a kid, like tickle,
Mm-hmm.
up under the armpits and around. And she would laugh really loud and they would laugh. And that was also part of bonding. That was one of the games she wanted to play.
But it's laughing is. I'm trying to kind of understand. I understand what you're saying about humor, but this idea
Mm-hmm.
of like laughter is a contagion. Like
Mm-hmm.
when you said that, I had all of these examples in my head of. So what? I mean, I wonder what it is about laughter from a social standpoint. We're saying humor, but um,
Yeah. So I think it signals that things are safe.
oh,
And so it's so like you can act something out, and if people are laughing, like if two people look like they're fighting, because I've seen
hmm,
this before, my first thought is, whoa, they're fighting. Then I see people around them laughing and going, oh, this is play. It's all okay. And then you can, so it's ways to, I think, kind of play, process things together, bond, those types of things. Also, research has shown that humor is attractive to the opposite sex. So people who have a good sense of humor, people rate them as more likable and more attractive than people without a good sense of humor.
I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah. So
But
and
what?
it's
Well, I mean, I'm not. That's rhetorical. What I'm saying, why? Why would that be something
well,
that can make you laugh? I guess is that.
yeah, that part of it, but part of I think so. What I'm trying to think back on from my memory from research is that um, if you show humor like to another mate, it's usually with a turn of phrase or how you say things or how you can catch something in an event and pull out something that nobody else saw. And it shows like cognitive flexibility or smartness to be able to do that. And so
Okay.
that can be
Okay.
even so on a subconscious level. So the non-conscious brain of the opposite sex or would
Mm-hmm.
pick that up as a trait that would be good to have for offspring. And I'm making this sound so clinical when it's people you're thinking that's not what I was looking for, but I'm just saying the back channel looks for patterns. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
strong so this person can protect me. Funny means they're cognitively agile and can work through problems and seem smarter. So yeah, I think it's those types of things. It signals some advantages that a mate might be looking for.
Yeah. And now I'm wondering. So we're talking about like social advantages of humor,
Mm-hmm.
but and again, I ask you these questions, but you might not know. But I'm wondering about are there any not advantages, but any positive outcomes on me or on others when we laugh or
Yes.
when humor's involved.
Yes.
Because I mentioned I
Um,
feel bad, like when I'm watching a comedy and it's funny and I'm laughing or I don't know how to explain it. I feel better.
yeah, it has a lot of health benefits. Laughing
Mm,
does, and
okay.
so I don't know that I can remember them all, but I know that it reduces stress when you're laughing. The parts of the brain that are involved, it reduces cortisol, which is a stress hormone. So it has
Really?
effects on stress and other health related issues as well. Yeah, laughing is healthy, humor is healthy. And there's different kinds. There's the dad jokes, right? But there's so like puns. There's also sarcasm. Uh, Sarcasm is funny. It can also be a little bit mean sometimes. So you have to
Yeah.
you have to watch out for that. But trying to think, irony. I guess that's kind of like sarcasm. Slapstick comedy type stuff people usually like. Um, and then there's the dark humor or taboo humor where people go too far. It's not as funny. And if you're hurting somebody else, some people will laugh and some people feel uncomfortable. So it's not every kind of laughter, but just
Yeah.
laughter in general. A good laugh at something is healthy, and yeah.
I'm thinking, I always do this as you're talking. I have these pictures flashing, in my head of, uh, you know, not in a mean way, but like people falling down, pratfalls, right? Like not someone falling down in a parking lot at Safeway. That's not what I mean. I just mean, Chevy Chase on SNL or
Yeah.
Chris Farley or something, and they'll fall and break a table. And I don't know, it's hilarious,
I know.
right? But it's like, I don't, I don't know. You saying there's an actual chemical change in my brain or in my system
Mhm.
from laughing makes sense.
This is
Uh,
a this is a really this is a revealing memory I probably shouldn't share. But in elementary
oh,
school, when I was like in fourth and fifth grade, we would be out on the playground playing, and there's this one kid that would really get on my nerves, and he was always trying to talk to me, always following. We'd be trying to play, and there's just this one kid that was always there, and I would about said his name. I would say,
I
I
can
would
edit
say,
it out.
you can
I'll
edit.
edit it
Okay,
out. Don't worry.
I would say, dude, but what his name was. I would say, leave me alone, because I mean, kids can be mean, right? So I'm not
Yeah.
trying to shoulder all of this on myself now. I don't think I would say this now, but I would say, like, dude, leave me alone, get away from me. And he would keep trying. I would say, get away, like that. And he would turn around and drop his head and start to cry. And he said, I'm telling the teacher. And he would start walking fast towards the teacher. And so I knew, like, I had a short amount of time. So I would run up and say, like, dude, wait. I'd say, hey, wait. And I would run kind of in front of him, and then I would trip and fall, like, on purpose.
Hmm.
And he would kind of
Yeah.
stop and look at me, and I would get back up and falling and say, oh. And then he would start laughing, and I would say, come on back over here. I would do that. I don't know how many times I would do that a week. I mean, it's really sad, but it would just be like, but it worked every time. The
Yeah.
falling down and getting him to laugh, because then, like, everything, all my meanness was forgiven because I got him to laugh. I mean, that
Yeah.
wouldn't work as adults. I know we've both grown up, and so I know that wouldn't work. But at that time, yeah, that worked.
You falling down and him, and that's what I mean. That's what I'm trying to kind of get to
Yeah.
about myself is why am I laughing when Chris Farley like jumped in the air and fell on a table, and it's hilarious.
So you don't laugh at America's Funniest Home Videos when people slide on ice and
Oh shoot, yeah, I do. Now you're making me reveal that
I
about me.
I
I do
laugh at
laugh at
those so
those.
hard.
I do as well. Yeah, maybe there is something wrong with me. I laugh at people getting hurt
No,
on that show.
no, but if
Uh,
there was something wrong with you, then that show wouldn't be popular. There wouldn't be a show like that. It's
Dang it,
everybody
John! You
laughs at that.
always have a way of making
Everybody
me feel
laughs.
okay with myself.
Well, I'm wanting
That
you to
is
feel okay because I laugh at it too.
okay. Self-serving, but still
Yeah, self-serving.
appreciated. Um, uh, okay, yeah. So I want to go back. I'm taking us way off the rails here. There's a social benefit to humor.
Hmm.
You said that there's a like lower
Physical health.
cortisol, physical health,
Benefits.
um, and then I'm assuming this, but just from an overall mental health standpoint,
Hmm. Yes,
being
that's
able
part
to
of it.
find humor in things.
Mental and
Um,
emotional health. Yep.
so there's a benefit there.
Yeah, and what's interesting is uh, a loss of humor or reduced humor, like the inability to see funny, funny things in things, like to see that humor in something, is an early sign of dementia. So that's also been studied that people with dementia, they're kind of, I don't know how to term it, reduced humor shows up before some of the other signs. It's one of the earliest signs. When people stop getting jokes and don't really catch on, that's an early sign that dementia might be setting in before you see
Oh,
other signs of it.
I don't. I apologize if you already said this, but do you know like what parts of the brain get activated when you tell me a joke
Hmm.
or I see something funny?
Hmm.
Uh, what parts of the
Yeah,
brain are involved?
yeah. It's the frontal lobe plays a big part in it. The TPJ, temporoparietal junction, also we've talked about it for different things, and in like self-awareness and things like that. That's usually activated. Um, the the dopamine system is activated, so you get a hit of dopamine when you're laughing at jokes.
Mm.
Even uh, even the motor cortex is involved because of the facial, like laughing and changing facial things. So it's signaling that.
Okay.
And so,
Okay.
I told you one time about the study about when people uh, would rate cartoons or comics, like out of a comic book, like Sunday newspaper has comics in it.
Mm-hmm.
So they would read a comic and then rate how funny it was. And if they would have them hold a pencil in their mouth
Oh,
while
yeah,
they were
yeah.
reading it, they would rate it as less funny because
Yeah.
that the muscle movements gives you the kind of the emotional signal that this is funny. So the motor cortex plays a role in that as well.
Being able to smile and laugh, and
Hmm.
that makes
Yeah,
things funnier, in a
yeah,
sense.
and since we're kind of talking about the brain, one of the there's a couple of ways that the brain processes humor or processes jokes. One is when the TPJ and the ACC, the error detection, when they detect something that is unexpected. So they think this one thing's going to be said and it throws a curve and it's something else. That surprise and that aha is part of the humor thing. Like I heard a comedian the other day say, I'm from Florida and everybody makes Florida jokes about the Florida man. And there's so many jokes about Florida. And I just want you all to know that there are 23 million people that live in Florida. And it's not fair when you put on all 23 million, when you hold them responsible for the 21 million stupid people or whatever. So it was that joke where you weren't expecting that. Like you always
Yes.
say, don't blame everybody for a few. And this was kind of turning it the other way, which was funny because I wasn't expecting that. So
Yeah.
that's kind of that error detection. Like I thought you were going to say one thing, you said something else, and that's what makes it funny. And then just puns are also kind of like that. So yeah, there's different parts of the brain that try to detect it and figure out like what you're saying and why. It makes it funny.
I was just thinking about stand up. You brought up stand up comics.
Hmm.
I love stand up comedy. I
I
love
do
it.
too.
And but like real professional comics
Hmm.
have, and I don't think there's research around it. I think it's just experiential. But we've come to a point where a professional knows that there's a way, how to set up a joke.
Hmm.
There's the setup, the punchline, the callback. Like there's all these things that they do that they're really good at.
The
But
timing,
the
the
timing,
delay,
right?
yeah.
All of that got me thinking like they've maybe some of them without knowing why or anything, but they've tapped in to something that I find satisfying
Hmm.
as a
Hmm.
human being. And I'm thinking about what is it about me or my brain that goes, that was a well crafted joke. Even if it's, I go see a comedy show and driving home and I'm like, man, that was a well crafted joke. I
Yeah.
like that. Whatever.
The jokes you
Um,
tell over and over. I
yeah.
They might start out as not understanding why and just being funny, but the
Hmm.
really good ones, I think, have studied it really hard because I've heard like I think it was Nate Bargatze. Is that
I'm going to
right?
see him next month.
Are you?
I
Yeah, he's
am.
good.
I
It
love
was
him.
a podcast interview, I think, with Conan O'Brien. I think it was Conan's podcast.
Yeah, it's Conan Needs a Friend, I
Okay.
think is what it's called. Yeah, I think it's Conan Needs a Friend.
Okay. I just saw a clip from it. I didn't watch the whole
Hmm.
episode, but he was interviewing him and they were talking about different they were talking about some different comics and why they were funny, what they were good at and why they were funny, and they started breaking it down into all this nuanced stuff that I had no idea about comedy. I mean, it is very complex and they are extremely intelligent people, the ones that can Nate Bargatze acts like he's so dumb, and he
Hmm.
has to be very intelligent to pull off the jokes he does, and yeah, it's they are crazy good at their jobs.
But again, going back to like being good at their job, to me, and I may be way off base, feels like they've tapped into something about human beings, about
Hmm.
most human beings.
Hmm.
Like if I'm going to a comedy show, there's something satisfying for my brain, my system, about the way that they deliver these jokes, the way that
Yeah.
they craft this. So I'm all over the board, but I guess I'm trying to get around to like they have figured out the way to satisfy my that little thing in my brain when it comes to humor.
Hmm. Yeah, I think any of the performing arts really have, kind of hone in on that and figure that out, whether it's movies or
Hmm.
music. And music, there, well, I guess in everything you have genres or people who like certain things better, but when you have the certain genres, that basically covers, all humans find something funny in there. So yeah, it's we all have human brains, I guess.
Yeah, that's the answer. That's the answer. Okay.
And I mentioned dementia, but also some other disorders like schizophrenia and some mood disorders have reduced humor processing.
Humor.
Humor seems to be
Hmm.
what's missing, and like depression, like depressive moods and depressive disorders have that. It's just hard to make depressed people laugh.
Yeah, that's
That
where I
wasn't
was kind of
funny.
going with
Yeah.
that is that whole that line that was like three lines ago, but is if someone is depressed,
Hmm.
then they don't find things funny as much. There's not humor in that.
No, not the spontaneous humor that we get, where you
Right.
see something funny and stuff, and there's even humor therapy for people with depression to try to help bring them out. So you use humor as I think it's called humor therapy, I believe, but
I have never
I know
heard of
there's
that.
therapy involving humor to try to get. It's usually for the depressive disorders.
Huh.
Yeah.
I wonder how would that work?
Uh, yeah, I
I
don't. I've never seen it in practice, but
yeah.
it's where you talk about things and you try to see the light side and the funny side of things, just to lighten it up. Everything seems
Okay.
so heavy and everything. So it can start with a few jokes to kind of loose, and then you start talking about different things. You say, well, this, what about, and you pull out a funny part of it, or you talk about it in that way. And I know it's structured. It's not just, you know, flying from the seat of the pants, but it's
Hmm.
it's structured in some way to add humor and to help them try to get to see the humor in things, because that can start lifting the mood.
Yeah, I mean, just if you're the chemical part of it,
Hmm.
if if you're talking about changing the chemistry in the brain or the body
Hmm.
through humor, then even if I don't know that anybody wants to be depressed, but I mean, if you're like that's I don't find humor in that. That's not funny. If I can just
Mm-mm.
kind of break through and start changing that, a little dopamine, a little cortisol dropping, any of that
Hmm.
uh, sounds wildly beneficial.
Yeah.
So the therapy should be I'm taking a busload of people who are depressed to Nate Bargatze next month, and that's a joke, by the way.
that
This is
would
no
that
time
would
for
be
jokes,
good.
Sean.
This
Um,
is no time for jokes.
uh, what else about? Is there anything else about humor I haven't asked? I'm fascinated by this.
Oh, I'm sure there are lots of things you haven't asked. I'm not thinking of any right now. Hmm.
But I wonder again. I'm not calling it a defense mechanism. I kind of brought this up already, but the ability because I don't want to call people out, but there are some people who are much better at making fun of others than they are of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm again not painting myself as some kind of saint or good person. We all know I'm not. I always find it way easier to make fun of myself. and maybe now that I'm talking it out, it's a little bit of a defense mechanism because, and I don't know that I haven't investigated this about myself, but if I make fun of myself first,
Mm-hmm.
it's less likely that other people are going to make fun of me, I guess. If
Yeah, or
that's,
it doesn't hurt as bad because you've already paved the way. So
I,
I think that's
oh,
a smart thing to do. I always think people that are self-deprecating always seem like the smarter people. That's the smartest route to go. If you get insulted or you get like defensive when somebody tells a joke about you, that's just a terrible posture to take because then that just brings more jokes and it makes you look bad. And yeah, just
yeah, your reaction to that. So I got,
yeah.
again, these things pop into my head. But every week, a group of us play trivia, bar trivia. We go to a bar, play trivia. I'm not good at it, but my team is amazing. Um, and this particular bar, which I love, but they have these old chairs. There's wheels on them, but they don't move very well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was sitting in the chair, and this was not alcohol induced, promise. But I'm sitting in the chair, and another team, there was a guy trying to talk to me, and it was loud. So I started trying to scoot the chair over closer to him. Why I didn't get up and walk over there, I don't know. I scoot, and it's not moving very well, and I scoot really hard, and the chair comes out from under me and flies behind me, and I crash down to the ground in front of a bar full of people. And the trivia host has a microphone, and so like everyone just starts in the bar starts like laughing at me and making fun of me. And I stand up, I fix my chair, I sit down, and I just joined in making fun of me.
Yeah.
I like there was no, I didn't. I mean, I just didn't really care. It happened, like, and but I do. So it was interesting now that I think about it because I didn't do it on purpose, but my reaction to that kind of killed all the sense of joy of making
Yeah.
fun of
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
because I started laughing. I made fun of myself, and it kind of just went. Ugh.
It,
And I imagine, based on what you just said, is that same scenario. And I get up and I'm kind of huffy or I get defensive.
it was the chair wheels. This chair, something's wrong with this chair, and like shaking the chair around. Yeah.
Exactly that. I think that without any evidence, no research here, but I think that would elongate the jokes. I think that would make it kind of go on where I just got up and went, uh, yeah, I don't remember what I said, but I said some joke, and then he said one more thing, and then it just kind of just went away.
Yeah. No, that is the best way to deal with it. I mean, laughing at yourself is always the best way to deal with it because it disarms people and it takes away their they can't really use it against you now because you're also laughing. So it can still be
Yeah,
funny and they'll think it's funny, but then they move on and forget there's something else going. But then
yeah,
if you react like by yelling or stomping around, then they're going to talk about that for a long time. Remember that guy in the bar that fell over? And yeah,
yeah,
no, I
and
think of people who don't do well with comedy, like political figures and all, who
yeah,
can't take jokes and get very incensed, and that just makes all the funnier and makes them look silly, and then comedians have a heyday with that, and
yeah,
comedians seem to have a way to talk about politics that and discuss topics that you can't normally discuss because there'd be too much yelling back and forth, but it's to bring light. It usually brings light from a different angle you hadn't thought of before. So I
hmm
think humor is important for so many reasons like that. That's the social fabric, I guess, of
yeah,
how humor affects our social fabric.
and gives us like you just said, because I'm thinking a different way of looking at things, even though it's somebody telling a joke.
Mm-hmm.
There have been things, and it's mostly politics, but there's things a comedian would say, and I laugh at and go, oh,
Mm-hmm.
and then but later kind of go, oh, that's interesting. That's an
Mm-hmm.
interesting way of framing that, and so maybe making me think about it kind of from a different way than I normally would. Again, if we were
Yeah.
having this heated debate about politics,
Mm-hmm.
I might not hear the same message as. when someone tells a
Well,
joke.
right, because humor makes the topic benign. So
Right.
now it's not, we can talk about it, because it's like that play thing. When you see two guys looks like they're fighting, then you see people laughing, you're going, oh, everything's okay here. If they were fighting, I would get really tense up. So if you're fighting about political viewpoints, you get really tense. But when a comedian starts talking and people are laughing, you go, oh, this is okay now. This is benign. Nobody's getting hurt. But then you can open your mind to hear a lot of new ideas and different ways to process stuff. I don't know that it always works,
Yeah.
but I think it does have an effect at some level, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I go back to, and there's a million comedians in the world, but I mean, the ones that I have that I think about are,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I mean, I don't know them, but they seem really intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to take an event, whatever that event is, break it down, put it in a structure, and everything we've said, right? Like is timing, setup, context, and then maybe a twist, if
Mm-hmm.
something you didn't expect. All of that, uh, that's a skill maybe, or an art that to have the ability to do that is really. Uh,
Have you ever tried to tell a comedian's joke and
oh yeah,
it
and I
just
can't, and
lands
it's
flat?
horrible.
It's awful because of the way the word choice and the pauses between stuff, and I don't know, just
No,
it's
I
such an
have
art.
the beats are important, right? Like what you just said, where you pause, where you do something, and I do. I've said it. I love stand up comedy. I listen to a lot of it, and then I hear something, and I'll be like, tell my wife, like, I got to tell you this joke,
Yeah.
and I do it, and she looks at me like, and I'm like, never mind.
she
Never mind.
she looks at you like you looked at me when I tried to tell the Florida joke and didn't pull it
Uh,
off right. You're kind of like, yeah.
but again, it's I didn't want to make this about stand up comedy, but I just really revere the ones that are really good at it because of all of this. I
And
feel like, go ahead.
they're also good because of the hecklers. Like in the moment, they're quick on their feet. They can think and just respond very quickly to something funny and put people in their place in a funny way that, yeah,
Yeah,
they're amazing. Yeah.
I was just watching. There's a comedian. His name's Jimmy Carr. I don't know if you've seen him. He's
Uh-uh.
Irish. He wears these 3-piece suits or what, but it was a mashup of all of his
Mm.
heckle. There's hecklers
Okay.
and how he deals with hecklers. And he just watching this guy who I really think, without knowing anything about him, I think he's very intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, comedy aside, this guy is just, and so people heckle him and immediately he is able to just pick out and tear apart. And I'm watching it just going, this is a master class in how to deal with someone in this situation. But because
Yeah.
if I was on stage and a heckler, I'd just go, shut up, or
Yeah.
I don't know what I would say something dumb,
I know.
and he can. I'm watching his eyes, and he takes in the information, and it already is dismantling it and
Yeah.
working it, and it's like 2-3 seconds, and he's just now starting to tear apart, whatever they said. I really admire like a really good comedian. Their ability to do this is fascinating to me.
Yeah. A heckler would throw me off
Me too.
so
I just get
quickly.
mad and yell
And
at them.
it's
I mean,
almost like they enjoy that or look forward to
that's why
that
they do it.
challenge. Yeah.
Yeah,
To
that's why they heckle, was to
respond
get
back.
Sean to say something dumb, which I would. I'd get mad and embarrassed and then say something dumb. And so the ability again of a human being who, because that is outside. Maybe it's not outside. Um, the heckler part is not part of the show that I've crafted, right? I'm a stand-up
Mm-hmm.
comedian.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have it all written out. I have it in my head, how many minutes it's going to be, where the
Mm-hmm.
beats are. I got it all. And then some outside entity, some person
Mm-hmm.
says something, and to not let that throw you off track, but to go,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to now use all of my skill and all my talent to deal with this thing I wasn't expecting.
That's what. Yeah. That's also why they're so smart, because it takes smarts to craft the joke when you're at home doing. And I can't believe that how many comedians say, like big name comedians say that they go to comedy stores and just kind of show up to try some of their new material to see if it works, and they hone it down a little bit and go try it in another comedy, and then they keep working on it till they feel comfortable with it. That's crazy too,
I've
because
actually witnessed it. I've been there on several occasions. So
really,
when this is a long story, maybe not too long for this podcast, but when I was in the Marine Corps, I was stationed in California. We were like an hour outside of LA. I don't know how far Oceanside was, but it was close enough to Los Angeles. And I love stand-up comedy.
mm-hmm.
We could get tickets to the Comedy Store, which is a big, if you don't know, that's like the big venue in LA,
Yep.
for dirt cheap on base. So the one advantage of being a Marine, I could go to the ticket office on base and get tickets to the Comedy Store for a Friday or a Saturday night for like 10 or $15. I don't remember what it was. It was cheap.
Wow. Yeah.
We drive up to the Comedy Store. We did this so many times, but there was a lineup. You knew who was going to be on.
Mm-hmm.
And like the 2 or 3 times I can remember, the first time was Mark Maron. I'll drop the name because he was amazing. But they just said, hey, he's not on the list, but Mark Maron's here and he wants to work on some material. So we're bumping such and such. And I mean, that was done seemingly on the fly. I think it was, while we were there, and he gets up and he kind of says, hey, I'm working some stuff out, so blah, blah, blah. And he's telling jokes and telling stories or whatever. And he has a notebook and he's making notes while we're doing
to see if people laugh or not.
He was scratching stuff out and writing stuff. And so live, I'm watching him on a Friday night or that was a Thursday night, but in the Comedy Store working on his set.
That is really cool.
I saw Eddie Griffin do it. Like, I've seen a lot of big name people show up at the Comedy Store over the course of a couple of years and work on their material.
That is really cool.
It's fascinating to me.
Yeah. Improv is also another really interesting part of
this. But I think that's improv is, even though it's comedy, that's a different kind of comedy, right? Like the ability to, because I've heard some stand-up comedians say they're horrible at improv.
Yeah.
They thrive in the writing of the jokes, having all the beats, but to have somebody, just be able to go, here's a topic, here's a setting, go.
Yeah. The show, whose line is
Whose line is it anyway?
Yeah, it's a really good one. I got a chance to go to the Second City in Chicago, where a lot of the Saturday Night Live actors come out of, and man, that's just amazing how quick they are, how quick-witted, how quick on their feet, and how they can just carry comedy on. It's amazing. That is I think a different skill.
Yeah, still funny. But a different skill.
So funny, just because it's not rehearsed. And that's just pure comedy. And I think I've heard this about a lot of actors, like Step Brothers with Will Ferrell and
John C. Reilly.
Yes.
Yes.
That a lot of the scenes, they would just kind of riff off each other, and it wasn't written. And that's why they were like, And not just that one, but a lot of comedy movies, they just add in their own kind of improv in what they think's funny at the moment. It just comes to them at the moment and they add it. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, there's several movies that have outtakes because depending on the actor, but we were just talking about The Princess Bride. Billy Crystal in the Princess Bride, Rob Reiner just kind of let him cook, just let him go. And no one could, everyone was out of their mind laughing. There was no usable takes because it was just so funny. But it was all improv. Like, it was not scripted. It was just him making fun of people or saying stuff. And Robin Williams.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was going to say Robin Williams was so good at that.
Yeah, just the list of all of the movies that have certain actors in them, that have certain directors who will let them improv. You see them just riffing and going, and everyone around them is like, I can't do this. I'm
like when Robin Williams was going on a late night show, like Jay Leno or something back then. I mean, he would just take over, and the host would just have to sit and just and laugh the whole time. And
Yeah.
it was all kind of improv. It wasn't, he didn't come out to do a bit. It's just whatever was being said, he would just keep building off that. And man, so smart.
Yeah. But it all comes back to humor, right? Like, I mean, how it makes me feel, what it does to my brain, what it does to social bonds, the benefit of humor.
We need to laugh more.
Yes. And even if it's just laughing at ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, trying to find humor in as much as you can in the things that happen. Maybe
you ever tried not to laugh? Like you're in a situation where you're supposed to be really sober and something's funny and you're trying not to laugh?
Yes. Not a story I should share on this podcast, but I have a definite memory of that. Yes. Yes.
That's very difficult. It makes things even funnier. Then it almost gets out of control. It's so funny. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. 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 See, now I have that memory and I'm like, I want to share it. It's hilarious, but I can't share it. So
somebody was there and said, it's not funny, Sean.
It's no time for jokes, Sean.
No time for jokes, Sean.
Oh man. So, so we're just coming up on the hour mark. All that from my neglect and hose water.
I have never heard that was actually worth the show to hear that. You grew up on neglect and hose water. I love that.
That is not mine, by the way. I don't know where there are T-shirts and memes and all kinds of.
Really?
I don't want to act like I came up with that. I did not. I just find it hilarious because it describes my childhood.
Yeah.
To a T. So. Oh, Jon, as always, thank you so much. This just took me in all kinds of directions that I did not expect, and I love that about this show.
Yeah, this was a fun show.
Jon, it's no time for jokes. No. In all sincerity, thank you as always for all that. That was really great information, and honestly, I've never even taken the time to think about humor and laughing and to kind of like break it down to this degree. So thank you for that.
Good.
Oh, and for everybody else, you better be listening. This is one you better be listening to, but just follow us on our socials. Jon's TikTok, still at TikTok, Jon? I'm still seeing.
Yeah, I pulled back a little bit on posting, but yeah, I'm still posting some. Yeah,
maybe that's what it was. I did notice a little bit less of Professor Jon, but because they're so good.
Yes.
They're so good. So brain_dude, if you want to follow Jon. All of our socials are Jon Teaches Sean. And like I said, if you're listening to this, wherever you're listening to it, if you haven't already, like the episode, follow the show, subscribe, tell a friend, tell a coworker, tell a loved one. Maybe you know someone in your life that needs to laugh a little bit more. Don't present it that way, but just say, hey, maybe you should check out this podcast. So yeah, and I think that's everything. Jon, any last words?
No, just keep those neurons firing.
That's what I was looking for. All right, everybody. Until next week, take care of yourself, and we'll see you then. Jon.